All right guys, this is Derek Okahashi with Core Team Hawaii and moving to Hawaii. Welcome back to another video. This one today came from a viewer request. I had a viewer ask me to talk about the different areas on the island based on schooldigger.com's top 5 high schools. So first, I'm gonna remind you, please subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, let us know you're out there, reach out to us, come talk to us about real estate, come talk to us about your move, all of that good stuff. But as we get started, I'm gonna read something because as I was asked to do this, as real estate agents, we get put in a tough situation. You want us to be real with you. I believe that probably everyone out there who's a fan of this channel really values how real we are, authentic. We're extremely serious about real estate, wealth building, finance, achieving your goals. I had to go ahead and look up the definition of steering real quick on the National Association of Realtors website to make sure that we navigate this topic the right way. Steering is the practice of influencing a buyer's choice of communities based upon one of the protected characteristics under the Fair Housing Act, which are race, color, religion, gender, disability, familial status, or national origin. Steering occurs, for example, when a real estate agent doesn't tell a buyer about a certain area because of those things, or tells a buyer to stay away from a certain area because of those things. That's a summary of what the definition of steering is, and just know that I'm going to share some thoughts, some experiences, some ideas about the different areas surrounding these high schools, but in no way is this intended for you to stay away from a community based off of religion, national origin, any of those things. In no way are we intending to steer, but there are a list of high schools that schooldigger.com put out, ranked them, and there's neighborhoods and real estate around those. So we're gonna walk this tightrope. So the first school, according to schooldigger.com's top 5 rated high schools, is President Theodore Roosevelt High School. Roosevelt, I didn't go there, but Roosevelt holds a special place in my heart because that's where my dad went, at least until he dropped out. My dad likes to say that he graduated from Waikiki Beach. As a young man, he had to fend for himself. Didn't come from wealth, and so therefore he taught tourists how to do surf lessons and got his food that way. Roosevelt is in town, so I can actually kind of see in the direction of Roosevelt right now. It's in like the hills of town, some of the communities. Now, nowhere in this video am I telling you school district based off of address. Not only should we check, even though I may know which school district a certain house is in, these things change and they can be nuanced. One side of one street can be one school district, one side of the other street can be another. So we always want to check with the school. I even asked the school if I could rely on the Department of Education website, and they said no, you have to call us. That website can be wrong. That's pro tip number 1. But regarding Roosevelt, so one, my dad went there. It's in an interesting location in the mountains, nestled behind Honolulu. My good friend Jordan, who's a client of mine, business partner of mine, he owns a local company. He came to Campbell High School where I went. He came to Campbell High School when I was a senior, he was a junior. And we clicked, we became good friends. He had previously gone to Roosevelt. When I started hanging out with him on the weekends and going out, it's senior year, exploring, I met his friends from Roosevelt, and there was a noticeable difference. There's just a different culture. Maybe because they're like more kind of city-ish kids. And it's not like McKinley High School that is in the city, or Kaimuki that's right around Diamond Head near the city. Like Roosevelt's in the hills above the city, right? But they just had a different vibe. Like I remember at Campbell High School, we were younger, and when the people from this neighborhood or this neighborhood saw each other out in town, they didn't necessarily mix, right? Or the baseball players and football players versus these kids or that. There wasn't as much of like cohesion. Roosevelt, everyone was chill. Like all the different little crews, like they had their own, cliques, but they mixed better. It was like the people from this neighborhood, from the Hawaiian Homestead neighborhood, Papakolea, with the surfers, with the baseball players, with the like b-boys or the, whatever. Everyone was just a lot more cohesive, I guess. And that's not to say move there, don't move there, right? But regarding the neighborhoods around, when I think of that place, I think of maybe a part of Kalihi Valley, Nu'uanu, Paua Valley. Kids are a little more familiar with the city. When I hung out with these Roosevelt kids, they knew like little back alleys to take. I'm 16, 17, or no, I'm 17 years old, and from, the Ewa side of the island, So when I would go to town, or the city as some may say, when we would go to town, I would call my dad like, hey, I'm on King Street, I'm passing Zippy's, how do you get to this place? And he'd say, you know, this is before iPhones, right? So he'd say, oh, you gotta keep going and then turn left by the funeral place and then you'll get to the restaurant, like the Willows or something. They were just a little street smart in a different way, you know, these kids. They knew their way around a city. They knew how to navigate situations a little different. Being that their parents may or may not own what you could call luxury real estate, but there's definitely a mix socioeconomically, like any school. You know, you're starting to get into the city, you go into MAKIKI. I wouldn't be surprised if the H1 were the cutoff for the Roosevelt school district, the freeway, but it may or may not be. That wouldn't surprise me. And then you're getting up into the mountains, these homes that are overlooking the city and the hills of Honolulu. So with the diversity that did exist in my experience with my friends from Roosevelt, the diverse groups, they got along really well. It was interesting. And I have my story. In one of the videos, I told a story about how I'm not friends with Bruno Mars, but Bruno Mars and I had mutual friends. Bruno Mars went to Roosevelt and he was kind of a towny kid, you know, between Hawaii Kai and town from what I remember. On School Digger, I focused on Honolulu County, so the island of Oahu. Maybe we'll do one of these at a later time for the outer islands. Kaiser High School, Henry J. Kaiser High School, and Kalani High School are 2nd and 4th respectively on schooldigger.com. We did a video on Hawaii Kai, which is more so the Kaiser High School area. For some people, once you go past Diamond Head and you get to that Kahala area, Aina Haina, it can be perceived as one. So when you're from this side of the island, you might, oh, you're like going Hawaii Kai in general, like you'd say Hawaii Kai in general. And those two high schools cover those areas. If you watch our Hawaii Kai video, we give you a good feel for this neighborhood. So I'm actually finding it hard to navigate this one, being that we're on YouTube. But I'll say that if you look at our Hawaii Kai video, you'll notice that we show a lot of luxury real estate. Plenty of areas with homes into the $3, $4, $5 million range. We show a marina where people are able to dock their boats near their townhomes. We have some avocado toast and some fair trade coffee. And so in terms of real estate in the community surrounding, I think that the Hawaii Kai video will probably do a good job of, you know, giving you a feel for what the real estate, the homes are like in the area surrounding Kaiser High School. And Kalani is the areas around Kalani High School. We're going to do that video. It's similar to Hawaii Kai, just maybe not as much to offer. The advantage to living in that area is you're more proximal to town. So it's a quicker shot on Kalani on Ole Highway into Honolulu if you're a professional that needs to go into Honolulu. Yeah, maybe a little more favorable commute. And you may end up, you know, going out to eat in town a little more often, whereas the Hawaii Kai people are probably going to stay right in Koko Marina and, you know, tend to hit those restaurants, or like the movie theater in Koko Marina versus heading into town, you know, things like that. So we'll capture that in an upcoming video, the areas like Aina Haina and stuff around Kalani, and show you how it starts to blend town, Honolulu, and Hawaii Kai, and kind of the feel for the real estate, the feel for the neighborhoods, the shopping. Okay, so we lumped Kaiser and Kalani into one because they're like, you know, bordering areas and similar enough that we'll lump them into one so we can get you a bonus option, right? Moanalua High School. So when I think of Moanalua, I think of an older suburb, I think of a mix. So when you go Mauka, when you go towards the mountains in Moanalua Valley, real estate in that area just, it's hard to come by. Homes don't go for sale a ton over there. And when they do, they're a hot, you know, hot commodity. People want them, or maybe families even trade before they go onto the market over there. So sought after they can be. I also think about the area leading up to Kaiser, Tripler, Fort Shafter. I don't know exactly where Radford High School takes over there, but you know, you think about Honolulu being the original hub, like before Hawaii was a state, so like pre-statehood, and then, you know, expansion into suburbs as you go out further into the island. So other than plantation communities, a lot of places were developed later, and Moanalua being a place where you have a lot of plantation homes, you know, built 40s, 50s, stuff like that. I also think about Salt Lake. Now again, I don't exactly know, and we wouldn't put it on a video because we don't want to be responsible because school zones can change. I don't know exactly where the Radford and Moanalua school zones change and overlap, but I think about Salt Lake too. And when I think of Salt Lake, I think of a lot of concrete. You know, there's not a direct access to the ocean, just like behind me here. You're landlocked by the airport, Pearl Harbor in one direction, which you can't get onto the base unless you're military, and it's mostly not swimmable ocean, even if you can get on the base. There's like Hickam Beach. You're kind of landlocked by the airport, Pearl Harbor, and then the whole like Nimitz industrial area. So Salt Lake's one of the worst places to try and walk to the beach. There's the old stadium, which they just proposed and are getting past I think a budget to rebuild the stadium. Definitely condos, not high-rise buildings like you would see in Honolulu and downtown and Kaka'ako, but you know, 12-story buildings, you know, a lot of 6-story buildings, third floor walk-ups, concrete buildings, stuff like that. When I think of Moanalua and the real estate surrounding Moanalua High School, I think of this similar to Roosevelt, where you go from mountain to city, but it all happens in kind of a condensed area with less population. You go from the hills in Moanalua to the concrete of Salt Lake. So I could see where if you needed to commute to Pearl Harbor Hickam, living in Salt Lake, Moanalua, you bike to Pearl Harbor Hickam from there. Same with the Radford High School District, very close to Pearl Harbor Hickam. A large population of the military bases here on the island are really close to Moanalua. So another thing about this video is we're going off the list of public schools. So you notice we don't hit number 3 on School Digger, which is UH Lab, University of Hawaii Lab School. It's I don't know if it's Lab is a charter or private. They're in the ILH, which is like private school sports. We're not doing private schools today. We're doing the neighborhoods surrounding public schools, the top 5. And so since we lumped Kaiser and Kalani as number 2, number 5 on the list for schooldigger.com, which would be number 3 on this list, is Pearl City High School. We actually did a whole video on Pearl City and we drove by the high school. I moved to Hawaii and started 8th grade here. I started visiting between 5th and 6th grade, 6th and 7th, and then when I stayed the summer between 7th and 8th, I stayed for good. I went to 8th grade, and then for 9th grade, they got a district exemption. So they actually got granted an exemption for me to go to a different school. They probably made the case that we needed drop off and pick up, and I was newer on the island. And so since my stepmom worked in IAEA, I think they applied for IAEA in Pearl City and got me accepted to Pearl City High School. One good thing, if I had gone to Pearl City, I would have went to school with my wife my freshman year, and we probably wouldn't be married today because if she remembered 9th grade Derek, it wouldn't have happened, you know. My wife did go to Pearl City her 9th grade year. So I will say my parents, again, YouTube crowd, YouTube fans work with me because I have to really choose my words on these topics. So my parents wanted me to go to Pearl City for a reason. I mean, you know, talk to my dad. I'll give you my dad and my stepmom's phone number and they can tell you why they wanted me to go to Pearl City versus another school. Pearl City is an area where there's this mixture of older suburbs with kind of concrete down the hill. Kind of the same like Moanalua, but even in a more condensed version, right? Like Pearl City is a mountainous area. The houses tend to be older, like 50s, 60s, and 70s architecture. Jealousy windows, flatter roofs. The Pearl City area, I said it in our Pearl City video, which we'll link below. I think that's where the metro of this island really starts. And if you're driving on the freeway from here, like the more leeward side or the North Shore, and you come down from the H2 or H1 and you hit that Pearl City, I'll show it. You hit that Pearl City merge, you know, H1, H2 merge, you see your first 2 tall skyscrapers, Century Park Plaza. You see those first 2 big buildings, and that's what kind of signifies like the metro Honolulu is starting, and then you get to Aiea. Not quite a city vibe yet, more of a suburban vibe, I would say, but it goes from like hilly suburbs, the Momilani area, which we'll show, to kind of concrete shopping and Kamehameha Highway. There's an industrial region to Pearl City. So there's this industrial area, which I think we go through on our Pearl City video, and then it goes to like suburbs in the hills that were built in the 60s. Reach out to me, you know, if you have more specific questions that you think I can answer, reach out, let's have a conversation. Last on this list of the top 5 public schools, according to schooldigger.com's ratings, would be KANEOHE High School. And the real estate, the community around there is Kailua, really. KANEOHE is kind of near the Marine Corps base, near the H3. So you might have some of Kaneohe in Kalaheo School District, and you definitely have Kailua, parts of Kailua. So you can look at our Kailua videos and our Kaneohe video in the show notes and really say everything that I need to say there, like see the visuals of how those communities are, their proximity to the beach. I would just say it's another mixed bag like all Hawaii schools. Definite proximity to the beach. You're close to the Marine Corps base, so that's probably gonna influence the culture around there a bit. The east side is just, it's beautiful, right? Like nature-wise, we've shown it, we'll show it again. We'll bring it up right now in this video. The Ko'olau Mountains, Kaneohe Bay. Kalaheo High School is very, very close to all of that. It's also a mature neighborhood on the east side, right? There aren't like Eva, where people aren't living amongst 1,000 homes that were built in 2015, right? The east side, that's where grandma lives. That's where uncle lives and auntie. Like they bought their home in the 70s. You know, so there's a little different character. Definitely gonna be rainier than a lot of the other schools that we mentioned, the other neighborhoods surrounding. It is the windward side for a reason. If you have more questions about real estate that's surrounding schools or whatnot, we will help facilitate you verifying which school district a house is in. And just reach out to me, have a conversation. Let's talk about your real estate goals. Let's talk about you moving to Hawaii or moving to Hawaii goals. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We've been connecting with a bunch of you guys and we love it. Put in our system, we talk about your goals, have a video conference, bring up the maps, bring up where these neighborhoods are on Google Maps or looking at the houses online, all of that good stuff. So look forward to connecting with you guys. Hope you enjoyed this stressful video, navigating these real estate rules, but giving it to you real here on Moving to Hawaii with Core Team Hawaii and Derek Okahashi. See you guys on the next one.